Hey everybody, I'm Adam, and this is Think Club. If you want to destroy the Marxists, never read Karl Marx. So I've been arguing with the Marxists for quite some time, and I find it very interesting that they always want to know what Marx I've actually read. I should say before I get too far into this video that the background drawing is done by an artist that I'm working with on a graphic novel. I wrote the graphic novel. She is helping me illustrate it. So her name is Steph. I will link to her page and to the full drawing if you want to look at it in the description below. But I'm going to play a clip here before we get started that I think is very, very entertaining and also very illustrative of the Marxist perspective. The goal of Marxism is no more bosses. The goal of socialism and communism is no more bosses. That is the intuition that is driving the Marxist philosophy here. So let's listen to this clip. This is a debate. It's on the ReasonTV webpage, and I've linked to it. You can see the link in the video.
I think when we think about a political sphere under socialism, we again don't have to make this leap into this crazy future no one can imagine. I think it'll consist of a bedrock of individual.
Notice that audible sigh. He's the guy that's speaking is the guy. These two debated. The guy who decided was debating for capitalism. The gentleman talking is debating in favor of Marxism. He's the socialist.
Rights that are guaranteed to all people, freedom of speech and so on. The one right that is very prevalent as a major feature of this society that I don't think would be given is the right to employ other people in wage labor. So if you want
what? So the socialist here wants to abolish the right to employ people in wage labor. That's his reading of Marx.
Want a criticism? It's on that. I think that in the political, so that's a moral and ethical belief. That's the ideological part of being a socialist. I will concede is entirely ideological. In that, I think that in a normative sense, hierarchy and exploitation are bad, and to whatever extent it can be mitigated, we should mitigate it.
So he sees the employer-employee relationship as an oppressive relationship, and that needs to be made illegal. So it's pretty crazy here. Now, to get back to the topic, the why I think reading Marx is not necessarily the best route to go if you're debating Marxists, is because whenever somebody reads anything, they're going to have their own interpretation of it. So even if you've read Marx and you have your interpretation, you're going to be debating Marxists who have their own interpretation. And you're not going to do very well in a debate. And the Zizek Peterson debate is the perfect example. If you're just talking past one another, you have to find out what the Marxist interpretation of Marx is, and you have to argue against that. Here, the reason that I play this clip is because it's a perfect example of the guy's intuition is that the employer-employee relationship is oppressive, and we have to get rid of that. That is his interpretations of Marx. So reading other things is very valuable because you're going to be arguing against this perspective, why that is not a good idea. And this is the argument that Jordan Peterson makes, that there are these competence hierarchies, and if you eliminate the structure in society that allows us to figure out who are the most competent among us and elevate them, not just elevate them in social status and wealth, but relegate resources towards them so that they can use those resources to produce things that are better for all of society. I look at the example of like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is using all of his wealth and resources to better human society. I would argue that we need to divert as many resources to the people like Elon Musk as possible, because they will use them efficiently for all of us to gain from. Now, I realize that there are people that have a lot of wealth that they aren't using their resources efficiently. And sure enough, that's an important area for us to all critique. But you can't really have a conversation with somebody if their starting point is employer-employee relationships are immoral and we have to eliminate them. And all of their thinking is designed by, how do we eliminate this thing that bugs me? So constantly I'm being asked what I've read as far as Marx goes. And a lot of people just jump into my comment section and they give me a hard time. They say, you haven't read this, you haven't read that. I have read the Communist Manifesto. I have read a book called The Proposed Road to Freedom by Bertrand Russell, which is about socialism. It's how to get an economy from capitalism to socialism. I never have laughed so hard reading that book. And I've also I've watched an online course, The Moral Foundations of Politics. I'm going to play another clip here. It's my first Marxist video, the Marxist video that Marxists love. This video ended up getting a lot of views. I actually ended up re-uploading it because the video got demonetized, and I was working on getting my second channel monetization. Well, everything I uploaded would be demonetized. So I deleted a bunch of videos to try to get around that. This was one of the videos that I deleted and re-uploaded, but I'm just going to play the intro here because I want Marxists to understand that I'm giving Marx a fair hearing. Just because I am against where I think Marx is wrong, or I'm technically against your interpretation of Marx, doesn't mean that I just am dismissing Marx without thought, without objective study.
What would you say if I challenged your understanding of Marxism and in the process threatened sacredly held libertarian values? What would you say to me?
You.
A lot of people say that Marx is anti-individual. He's not individualist because he thinks about things in terms of classes and class conflict. That is a very superficial reading of Marx. Actually, Marx is an individualist because if you look at how he defines classes, he defines them by reference to the way in which individuals relate to the means of production.
I've noticed.
So obviously I've added the movie clips there, but the source video of that is from I believe it's a Yale course on the moral foundations of politics. And there's 3 or 4 of the lectures that he details Marx and what Marx was thinking and how Marx's ideas were taken by other people. And I flesh out a lot of the areas where I think actually Marx got it right, but Marx got it wrong in many places. And the Zizek-Peterson debate, Peterson comes out and articulates so many of the places where Marx got it incorrect. Now, reading Marx is not going to help you figure out where Marx got it incorrect. Reading other things, reading other sources, so you can combat some of these terrible ideas that Marxists are putting out there is the way to go. I don't know how you get around this idea. Or I guess you have to articulate to any kind of Marxist that you're debating. You have to tell them immediately that you want to critique their interpretation of Marx, and you can't necessarily critique the interpretation of Marx or Marxism through more Marxism, because that is not a fundamentally sound way to critique Marx's arguments, okay? Sure, you have to understand Marx's argument, but you don't have to read any of Marx to be able to ask someone who has read Marx to articulate their interpretation of Marx's philosophy and to argue against that. If you've read every single work of Marx and you get into a debate with someone who says, fundamentally the employer-employee relationship is oppressive, and that we need to eliminate that from society. Sure, Marx may have articulated many different strategies for eliminating that from society, but you're arguing why that fundamental competence hierarchy exists, and you want to stress how, what are we going to use instead of these competence hierarchies if that is what your ultimate goal is to eliminate. So I hope this has been informative to you. I'm curious your thoughts, as always, in the comments below. I'd like to know, what is your interpretation of Marxism? Have you read Marx? Do you feel reading more Marx is making you better equipped to argue with Marxists? If people read Marx and they have a completely, fundamentally different interpretation of Marx than you have, I don't see how you being as knowledgeable, like maybe perhaps more knowledgeable in Marxist philosophy than them, is going to help you in a debate. I really don't see how that's going to happen. So I'll go ahead and leave it there. I'm curious your thoughts. Leave them down in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.
Well, first of all, if you don't have a purpose, it isn't that your life becomes neutral in a meaningless sense. It's that your life becomes characterized by unbearable suffering. Because the baseline condition of life is something like unbearable suffering.